Last time we were seeing the different modalities of seeing that Walid exposed. Recently, that if you live in a context where the context is a protracted civil war, the story is ongoing. The feud between Aoun and Jaja is ongoing since the 80s. It's still until today. The same for the a bit more new feud between the Hariri family and Hezbollah. And so you have these frictions are there since 20 years, 30 years. So it's not that the war ended just like that. It's a neat end, and then we moved into something absolutely different. No, it's the same kind of actors with the same kind of frictions, allergies, also possession, meaning their situation in the economical and political field, which are still ongoing until today. This is what, if you want, we call a protracted civil war. So it's still continuing, but in a different form. So if you're living in such a context, we have seen the different problems that you can face, be it the problem of the disappeared, the problem of witnessing this, of being in the presence of destruction. And we've seen how can you look at that? It's an aesthetical problem. How do you look at ruins? How do you look at Beirut if you're living and you're aware that you are in such a context? You tell me, okay, but come on, looking is the same for everyone. Like, I'm looking at the bottle. If I'm here or in New York, it's the same. This is not perceiving. Perceiving is usually defined, especially in aesthetics, as seeing with consciousness. To perceive properly is to see with an awareness. It's not just to see. It's not like biological perception. Now, what is our awareness in a context of a protracted civil war? Our awareness is that you're blocked, you're all the time under threat, you can't really have a future because of these threats, and because you're really not able to intervene in the situation. Hence, you have this kind of blockage and being here without any option of projections, organization, planning, what makes usually a normal life. All these plans are hijacked by the situation. So in such a situation, as you have seen last time, Walid says you really don't have a future, and in that regard, you can't really make plans and describe things simply as they are and dispose of them. When you have projections in the future, you give names to things and you dispose of them, meaning you are able to manipulate them, organize them, and project them into different plans. The problem here is that you don't have this option of future projections, and hence you are holding these names and projects in your mind, and that's it. You want to make a movie, you say, okay, I can't make it because no funding, political situation, and then anyway, interruptions due to bombardments or whatever. So you have this kind of never-ending blockage of your future life. Now, we said in this situation, Walid made a kind of reading of Farrukh's work, and he showed us that we can't really draw the land into a landscape, meaning to really project a vision on this land. I hope this is clear. This is why he proposed the near blindness kind of seeing, where you are really in front of a wall. And we've said that in order to do this experience, there's a measured thing you have to do. You have to project and get blocked. And this he enacts it by putting on the walls captions. Because when you put on the wall a caption, meaning a description of a painting, you have this habit to expect a painting hanged above the captions, and then you are blocked because you see there's nothing to see, and you see there's nothing to see. I think really this is what Walid is putting in this kind of installation, is that you have to see that you are facing a wall and it's a blank wall, and all what you can do is become attentive to this really proximate cities that you have in your face, and all what you can do is just remain in this proximity. So seeing by way of near blindness, meaning you're blind because it's so near that you can't anymore see it at a distance, is one of these modalities of seeing. For this exhibition, it was shown at one point in London, I think. And there's a guy who went in, he said, oh my God, they didn't have time to finish the hanging of the paintings. Now, I tell you this anecdote because here you see the expectation. You see that this guy was expecting to see something because you have these captions, but the paintings are not there. And what is at play is this kind of blocking the expectation. Now, if you look at Love is Blind and this installation, you see that the captions refer to names of places and to cities that have lost their names and to the impossibility of referring to something, which are all themes that gravitate around the idea of a place that is detached from its name. I hope by now the theme is becoming familiar. When you are in the face of a corpse, the corpse is here and it's detached. The name of the corpse is detached from the corpse. When you see rubble, when you see destruction, you know more or less the names of these places. More or less, this is Shia. This is the experience that Walid had when he witnessed the 2006 bombardment. But you can't really place the name. Now, this detachment of the name and the present object turns the present object into an excessive materiality. And of course, the question is how to see this excessive materiality. One of the solutions, near blindness. The other one is granulation, is when the eye really is molding itself on this rubble, as if you use your eye to touch this rubble and mold yourself on this rubble, as you have seen in the movie by Ghassan Salhab, the Hamra project, where you see this image getting condensed and condensed and condensed, and Hamra is there, but really captured in this heavy materiality. It's captured in this heavy material, as if seeing at a distance, this is Hamra, this is Verdun, or whatever, becomes impossible. You are glued in the place. You are living physically, tactilely in the place. And this is how you feel that place. You don't feel that place as a projection or a representation. And the last one you have seen is seeing by way of death. Seeing by way of death is an interesting concept because this is where you understand that what Walid is trying to explain is that the production of the image, the consumption of the image, and the seeing of the image must be collapsed together. Because while your eye is dying, the image inside your eye is becoming crystallized with the eye. So you see it, you produce it, and you consume it in the same time. Well, actually, when you take a picture, like a photojournalist or someone, like a tourist, for you, the moment of taking the picture is not the same as the moment where you see the picture, especially in analogical pictures, where you develop the picture, you see it. And it's not the same moment of the consumption of the picture. You have three mediums. You consume it with your eyes, you produce it with the photo thing, and you see it when you develop the photos. You have this kind of three-partition. And what Walid is saying is that if you want to understand making images in this context, actually to produce the image, to live with it, and to see it is the same thing. It's the same thing. Because you can only really produce these pictures as they are here if you are really living this place as it is here. So you have to have really absorbed this place with all its problems, where you really feel its stagnation, heaviness, excessive materiality, and in your picture, this is what needs to be conveyed. What needs to be conveyed is this experience of yours, which is now an aware experience of this place. So I hope this is clear for last time. Now, today, we are moving into a new problem, which is the labor of witnessing. Now, as you know, in situations of war, witnessing is a major function when it comes for the individuals or for the community, because we all witness things. You witness bombardments, killing, kidnappings, etc., etc. So you are witnessed by the simple fact that you're here. At least for those who lived the war, they are ipso facto witnesses, and actually even those who were committing the bombardments, crimes, are also witnesses. So you have a whole community now of witnesses, be it on the victim side or on the butcher's side. And the issue is that how do you witness in this situation? How do you witness in this situation? And to understand that, I'm going to refer to a text by Walid called Peddling Time While Standing Still, just for you to get the problems of witnessing. In Peddling Time and Standing Still, Walid says that in Lebanon, post-2006, the territory is divided post-2006, between 14 and 8, if you remember this divide. So 14 and 8, the divide, which is the 14 are with Hariri and the project to bring about justice for those who were murdered by, some say, Syrian proxies with the involvement of Hezbollah or not and stuff like that. And you have the other story, which is the 8, which are supporters of Syria, which are against those who want to trial the Syrian officers and the like. So you have this kind of divide. Now, the thing is that, in 2005, you had the assassination of Hariri. 2006, you had the Israeli bombardments. And actually just created a divided place where those who were supporting Hariri claimed that life would be only possible in Lebanon if you can bring to justice those who murder, be it politicians, people, or other, while the Hezbollah said that life in Lebanon would be only possible until you win over Israel. I hope now you get these two discourses. And what Walid says is when you have this kind of future projection, like my life can only begin if I win against Israel, or my life can only begin if I bring those who murdered Hariri and the 15 others, what happens is that you don't live in the present anymore. Your present, again, is hijacked by these two politics, meaning you are really living in a messianic time for the Hariri people, or in the time of the Ummah for the Hezbollah people, meaning what's happening now in Lebanon doesn't matter, because whatever you do, what matters is or will come from the future. It's very concrete what I'm saying. What's the use of building electric plants if you know that Israel is going to bomb? There's no use in that. Or what's the use in doing anything if you know that you live with murderers that can shoot you at any point without being tried in justice? So these are, if you want, the two options. And Walid says when you are faced with these two options, you don't have a present anymore. Not only that, time detaches from space. Now, time is a big word for your projects, what you think, organizing the world and stuff like that. So time detaches from space. What really counts only will happen in the future, or when the future will solve these issues. And when you have this disjointment of time and space, what happens is that now space becomes the underfoot of time, meaning you can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't matter. You see, you liberated it from all kinds of concrete projects and organizations. So it doesn't matter if I build a barricade here, or if I close the city center, or if I bomb people here and there. It doesn't matter, because all of these things which are inscribed in this space right here and right now are announcing a future solution. I hope you're getting the logics. So what Walid says, this is why you will be the victim, in quote, of repetitive violences. They decide to bomb that guy there next to the corniche. You're walking and you're blown up with it. There was another one in Ashrafi. And then the Israelis bombard you. So what's happening really here in space doesn't really matter. Okay. So when it comes to witnessing, this situation where you had this divide, 14th, 8, as you know, made it such that when the Israelis decided to bomb Hezbollah in its headquarters, it made it such that you had like a line encircling the zones that are going to be bombed, and all the other neighborhoods are simply witnessing these bombardments. Of course, they can't do anything. You can't do much as a civilian against an Israeli plane. And actually, Hezbollah themselves couldn't do much too, so they were practically, or most of the time, hiding in the bunkers that they have built. And all what you can do is just witness and wait for this destruction to unfold. And this is what really happened. So Walid says, we were in Hazmiya, and from Hazmiya you could hear and even feel the shakings, and you see the smoke. And he says, in other neighborhoods, if you are hiding, you could witness with your ears. Your ears starts to see because you really hear the bombardments. And this is a very peculiar situation. Why it's a peculiar situation? Because, if you're bombarded by a foreign enemy, you're supposed to be dead, or you're supposed to be hiding somewhere like everyone else. But here you could sit on your balcony and witness, because you know that due to this political weird divide of the sectarian space, it gives you this form of excessive witnessing. This is what you call an excessive witness, because if you are simply endangered by the bombardment, you are simply a witness. Now, you are an excessive witness is when you are feeling safe and yet witnessing a quite brutal form of violence. Okay? You are an excessive witness. And in that case, Walid says, you see with your ears. Now, of course, this creates a line. Hence, there is a line between those who are safe and those who are not safe. I'm not saying that those who are safe are mean or evil or anything. Just by the simple fact that you live here, you become an excessive witness if you want it or not. It's as simple as that. And this line, hence, is now circulating among the population, where you have a guy who is not an excessive witness because his house was bombed, and you are an excessive witness because nothing happened to you. You were sitting there and waiting. This led Ghania Stefan. She made a movie in the aftermath of 2006 where you really see this front of the camera, back of the camera. Rania Stefan is one of these excessive witnesses, meaning she still had her camera and, she didn't live in a destroyed neighborhood. So she could, after the destruction, go and interview people of those who were victims of the bombardments. You get this kind of tension now between the same population, which is now divided into those who witness excessively and those who are simply witnesses or victims of the bombardments. So Rania Stefan made a short movie. She made many short movies about that. And this one is called Bint Jbeir, where you see this kind of dialogue between these two sides of the population who suffered that. So the movie goes like that.
اه قصف عليك. ركضت. ما في سجاير؟ مقطوع؟ شكرا.
These two, Walid focused on the scene because of the state of the guy, and you see that, huh? Yeah, this is at least how it is in the text, that he has a shock, and you have this kind of disturber of the speech, and you have this kind of dialogue across the line. So if you want this, this is, if you want what you call an excessive witnessing. Excessive witnessing, you are really like on the other side of the line, and you need to dialogue with the other section of the population. Now, you have another situation that relates to what you call the impregnated witness. The impregnated witness is different from the excessive witness. The impregnated witness is a concept that Walid uses for those who themselves witnessed the violence and they got impregnated by this violence. So you see, you're not just traumatized, you're not an excessive witness, meaning you witnessed it but you were safe, but really in this case you witnessed the violence and it really got into you. To comment on that, he is going to refer to this painting by Memling. Usually Walid writes like that. He has a very clear concept related to Lebanon, and to talk about it, he brings you something from, I don't know, the history of the arts, or something from, a book, from literature or whatever, and he starts speaking about what he wants to speak via that thing. So in any case, he brought that triptych by Memling, and what interests him is this part here, with Patmos witnessing the apocalypse. Now I hope you get why he brought that painting. So in that side of the painting, you have Patmos witnessing the apocalypse. Now, Walid says that if you look at that painting, well, you have two things. You have first Patmos here witnessing at a distance, and he's seeing the visions of the apocalypse. The apocalypse is, let's say, a state of total destruction or something very violent happening. And he's sitting there calmly observing these scenes, these apocalyptic scenes, while writing about them as if they are visions. So you could, or while witnessing violence, you could stand there and look at it as if you are just witnessing violence, and you take notes and you describe it as you do your thing. It remains that in this painting you have a detail here. You have a detail here which is the angel carrying the book. So the angel carrying the book, this guy here, and this, what it says, this produces a kind of caesura in the vision. Why? Because as you know in the story, or as the story goes, Patmos had to eat the book in order to receive or see the revelation of the apocalypse. So at chapter 10, Patmos eats the book, and he ingests the book. He eats it literally. And Dürer made another, not painting, a kind of etching, where you see Patmos eating the book. This is Patmos eating the book that he is receiving from the angel. He eats it. And when you eat the book, you are impregnated by the vision and not anymore seeing at a distance. Now, all this story to tell you what? To tell you that in some situations, you see the violence, you don't get traumatized. This is a possibility. But this violence really like impregnates you. It inhabits you so much that it starts to speak from your belly towards the outside. It's as if now you have a book inside you and the book speaks. Now I tell you these things, you have to reenact them and try to live them in a normal situation. Usually when you witness something very violent, you start to speak a lot. I don't know if you tried that or if something happened like that with you, you start just speaking the images that you are seeing as if now it's not you speaking, but the impact of the images or whatever happened with you was such that you feel now that all what you can do is just, speak about it. Now, this leads to a kind of weird form of speech and being when it comes to witnessing, which is, as Walid says, that you have a forked tongue, meaning it's as if now you speak two languages. You have this thing in you that speaks, and you have your own speech. As if when you speak, something else speaks through you. This is why he calls that a ventriloquy. It's a ventriloquy, meaning you're speaking from within your stomach, or something is speaking for you from within your stomach. And this speech, says Walid, is most of the time very delirious, very weird, and sometimes even funny. I don't know if you read Jean Genet's 4 heures à Sabra. No one? So Jean Genet, Jean Genet, a great French writer, he witnessed Sabra and Shatila in the aftermath. So he was really close to the Palestinian community. He used to be friends and live with them, etc. And after Sabra and Shatila, he was really one of the first to enter after the massacre. And he wrote a book which is really like, in quotes, surrealist in its imagery. So the way he describes things is like insane. He tells you there's a guy standing like a boxer and the ballerina is next to him. The language is very, very graphic and very weird. This would be what I call a forking of the tongue. The images are so shocking that it goes into a delirium, into a kind of delirium that you speak. Now, I found the guys that Walid doesn't mention from the Sabra and Shatila massacres, and see the way he describes the events. This is something like 15 years later. So this is a testimony of what I would put under a forked tongue. In your essays, if you want to find examples, this is the kind of work you should do. To find an example, not from Walid, I would say, yeah, this could fit in. So this young man actually is a witness of the Sabra and Shatila massacre. And
اللي احنا نجيبه نحن بالليل شفناهم ميتين تحت محل ابو جمال، محل مكنسياني كبير، محل عالي، كان يقتلوا يهبطوا عليها من البيوت وهيك. كان في صبي اسمه مفيد، هو قال لي بس شفته رجعت، بس خلصت المجلس معي، بس شفته قال لي انتوا كنتوا رابع مجموعه بتيجوا يقتلوها فوقنا وانا بعضني طيب. كل ما يجي مجموعه يقتلوهم، كانوا هن اول مجموعه بيقتلوهم هنيك بالليل. اللي شي الساعه 7:30 8 بالفعل نفس التوقيت اللي رحنا على الملجأ لنجيب البنات، نفس التوقيت هذا. مقتلينهم الولاد الصغار، كونه هيدا صغير يعني، كان عمره بحدود شي 10 سنين. تلة بالفعل انه كانت تلة. مش تجمع الزين، تلة عادي كبير من العالم. كانوا يقولوا للناس علوا يطلعوا لفوق ليبينوا عليهم اكثر، انه يدعسوا على ال200. يدعسوا على ال200 يعني يجيبوا لهم شي 50 60 واحد يحطوه هون لفوق عشان يقوسوهم أكتر. إنه فوق هيك كان في ناس تفوت بالمحل لجوا عشان ما حدا يزمط يهرب على المحل. في ناس يقوسوا يصير قواس من هون ومن هون، من الجهتين يصير القواس، من جهة من كمان من هيدي الجهة ومن هيدي الجهة، يقوسوا ويهبطوا المحل، يقوسوا ويهبطوا المحل. لأنه يجت الجرافة، كنا شايفينها نحن جرافة كبيرة لون عسكري ومكتوب عليها بالعبر. الجرافة كانت لون عسكري كبيرة ضخمة ومكتوب عليها بالعبر. كانت هي اللي كانت جاي قدامنا شفناها. وكان في كاميونات كبيرة كمان، انه قلاب ما قلاب، انه ما كنت افهم فيهم. كاميونات بس للاسرائيلية مش لجيش لبناني، مش شكل تاعون الجيش اللبناني. كانوا هول موجودين هنيك.
حتى الرضع كانوا من ضحايا المجزرة.
إن وحدة كانت ميتة لابسة قميص وطنور، قلبي على البيت، بيت مهبط. فكيف اجت فوق البيت، كيف شيء ما عرفت. المهم كانت ميتة هنيك ومعها ولد ملفوف بلفة ولكن ايديه طالعين، فمبين صدرها مفتوح. كانت لابسة قميص، هي فتحيته كانت ترضع ابنها من قبل ما عرفت. المهم صوت ولد انه عم بتأمس وشي، انه طلع صوت انه عم بيرضع بز امه، في صوت بس ما عم بيبكي، عم بئن كأنه الواحد عم ياكل بنام او شيء. وامه ميتة، كان عم بيرضع من بز امه. يعني كانت امه بشكل هيك على ظهر نايمة وقلبي، ولكن بعد ايدها على ابنها. كان بعد ايدها على ابنها من تحت، وهو قالب على صدر، على صدر الشمال. ايدها الشمال كانت قالب على صدر الشمال، لان احنا فتنا بالضرب، هي كانت على يميننا وقلبي هيك كان على صدر الشمال بالضبط. ف كان هيك شنو طايل بزة انه مش مزبوط متمسك فيه، عشان هيك كان عم بئن. فجأة قال هذا ليك، هذا بعده طيب. واحد منهم قال انه هذا بعده طيب. قال خليه ما هلا بنشف شو بز امه، او قوس له اياها. قال له ما هي مقوسه، شو بدنا نقوس فيها بعد، ميته. مبينه ميته عادي، بس كانت ميته من قبل تحليلي، يعني من قبل مش اقل من 5-6 ساعات او اذا اكثر كمان، لانه كان دمها مش دم لون عادي احمر، كان دمها اسود هي، والدبان عليها كتير. وعلى الولد كمان في على ظهره دم، على اللفه تبعته كان فيها دم، كون على ايديها كان في دم هي شوي. فاجا كمشوا من اللفه، بتعرف إلها زنار من اللفه، كمش منها هيك وزته. فحسيت شي طج ووقع، بس ما سمعنا صوت، بس زته زته قويه كانك بتكون مارق انت، لانه هو بالفعل كان مارق. وصل لعنده مسكه، هذا مش نفس اللي قال اقتله ما اقتله، اجى واحد تاني يعني. بس كيف انا عم بطلع بترفع عيني هيك عليه، على الولد، مش هيك تطليعه، مارق وهيك طلعت. مسك الولد وزته طجه ووقع. كان في البيت بس مهبط، في منه عمود واقف، نفس البيت هذا المهبط اللي مر عليه كان في عمود واقف لونه ازرق. العمود كنا مدهون من جوا، مبين في لون ازرق هيك على العمود هذا مدهون او شيء. طجه خبط بالعمود وقشط، بس طجه فتل على التقل، على تقل الصبي. فتل كونه خفيف، يعني انه بس تقل راسه لقدام فتل. ما عرفت طج راسه اللي بالحيط بالعمود وجسمه، المهم بالطول طج وقشط وقع بالارض.
When you put the violence with its visual manifestation, you have to put it, you have this kind of weird effect. You have this kind of doesn't fit. What you see doesn't really fit, and sometimes it could have, and Walid mentions it, humoristic kind of effects, like the details, the blue column and the way the baby flips, it's like delirious. So if you want, this is when you are witnessing, and you witness things that become like out of this world and their strangeness, and you feel that now you're speaking a speech that is inhabiting. Now, other figures of witnessing, it's when you are yourself under the impact of the traumatic in quote event, even though Walid doesn't like to use this word. It's like when you are yourself, if you want, you are yourself the one who got affected personally by this violence in the most direct way, either because they killed your parents, or because they raped you, or they tortured you. This is when you become a first kind of, you're witnessing of this violence in your name, in the first name kind of witness. And in here you feel that the witnessing becomes a weight. The witnessing becomes like a heavy weight. And to tell the story, you feel that you're unable really to just speak about it fluently. And you feel that there's a very heavy weight on you when it comes to speaking about that. Now, this figure is what we call the witness who knows too much. Means your knowledge of the violence is for you an excessive knowledge, something too much to speak about. And in that situation, your speech can only be weighted, can only be distorted, interrupted by these memories or this kind of situation. And here you have the example that Walid mentions is the one-man village by El Habr. You have the movies here, you can watch them. So the movie is about a guy called Simon. And Simon, he used to live in a village in the Shuf. And you know, after the mountain wars, they were like extermination, heavy bombardments of Christian villages. And many of those who lived in these Christian villages left. And Simon decides to go back and live in his village after the end of the war. And he's practically living alone in this village. He's alone. This is why the movie is called The One-Man Village. And he takes care of cows, etc., etc. And you see his nephew, which is actually doing the movie. And at one point he asks him about the death of his parents, meaning how his grandparents, the movie maker, died. And this is how he answers Simon. And here I hope you feel the heaviness of that. When you watch this, think about, because it's also mentioned by Walid, about Hitchcock's The Man Who Knows Too Much. Did you see Hitchcock, The Man Who Knew Too Much? No? So the story of an American family, they are visiting Morocco, and there's an agent who tells them something, and then the whole movie is about how they're going to use this information given to them by the agent to save their son. I hope you have this kind of excessive knowledge. You know, you're not supposed to know what the secret agent knows, but in the hazard of the situation, he told them that. And then you see that the whole movie is how to get rid of this excessive knowledge, right? How to use this excessive knowledge, because in the movies they want to assassinate a diplomat, and the agent told them the hour and the place, but they don't really know what's that. But anyway, they use this in order to liberate their son and continue their normal life. So a way to use excessive knowledge is to use it in order to get rid of it, in order to, to get rid of it and move on. The point that Haber is making, and I think Walid is reading that in the movie, is that this character doesn't want to get rid of his knowledge. The Simon guy, he doesn't want to get rid of his knowledge. Actually, he went back to his village to inhabit it with this knowledge, and all his life is now, in a way, bended by this story. It's bended by this story. So when asked to speak about it, this is what it gives.
شو قصة هيدي الصورة يلي ورا؟
هي صورة مرحومة أمي مرحوم بعيدي. هي قديمة كتير، قديمة الصورة. ما في ولا صورة مصورين سوا مع بعضهم. مرحوم امي لوحدها ومرحوم بيي مع البقرة. عنده يعني شو ثابت هيك يعني. الا نحن بدنا ندمجهم مع بعضهم. خيي عنده اياهم كانوا الصور. اخذوا من عند المصور شال صورة البقرة ودمجهم مع بعضهم صاروا كأنهم صورة واحدة. بس حلوة طلعت.
كيف توفوا ستي وجدي؟
قطع شوي.
كات.
ما فينيش نحكي يعني. الله يسأل بالحرب ومرحوم جدك كيف مات ما فينيش. انه خلص عمرهم رح اقول. اوكي؟
عم سجلهم هدول.
سجلهم كمان. لا الأعمال بيد الله. مرحومة ستك بالأحداث يعني. جا رصاصة طايشة وراحت. ومرحوم جدك هو توفى قبله بالوادي. يعني حادثة صارت معه.
بس قالوا لي انت شفته لما توفى؟
لا.
ولا شفت ستي؟
أنا شفت مرحومة ستك. أنا حتى مش توفت لما انصابت. جبناها ونزلناها من هون على طريق الوادي. هذا على مستشفى على بيروت. هذا عمره بالنهاية بيقولوا ما لحق قوى تحت مستشفى كثير نزف الدم. وتوفت. طلعت عمره.
وانت كنت معه؟
لا كنا هون. كان عمك يوسف والعيلة كله بس نحن كنا هون بالبيت.
طيب وين مدفونين هلا ستي وجدي؟
هون تحت البيت. كل يوم بنزورهم بنشوف يعني بنشق عليهم بنصبحهم مسين كل يوم. المدافن هون تحت البيت صاروا دغري يعني هون مكاني يعني صحيح انه قاعد وحدي هون بس بحسهم معي على طول. بحسهم معي مش قاعد وحدي ابدا. بنصلي لهم على طول.
There's a difficulty that interrupts the speech. This one is the same line. I think it's when you feel that the experience is so heavy and painful that the speech gets distorted and you have these heavy silences that punctuates the speech. This is again from
Second, the presence of the chords.
It's very good that you mentioned that. Presence of the cause is a bit different. You see, presence of the cause, there is a heavy atmosphere, but the point is to be able to initiate a dialogue and to gather around that strange object. And here the object itself is an excessive presence, but that can trigger a kind of reflection of the community on it. Here it's more an individual experience that is very painful and where speech is simply disrupted or interrupted and where you don't feel like engaging in a kind of dialogue with the others because it's your kind of the heaviness of your experience that you carry on you. This is why Walid says that if you want an image to the witness who knows too much, he thinks about that, about the man carrying his father. It's not a good resolution, but anyway, it's the same. So you really carry that thing on your back, and you're under its weight. Now, this is another witness. It's from Sabra and Shatila, and it's a woman who is witnessing about her rape. And here I think you will feel the heaviness.
بقيت إحدى شقيقات ماهر التي أصيبت بعدة أعيرة خلال إطلاق النار بقيت على الأرض حيث سقطت غير قادرة على الحراك.
ثالث يوم اجت ثلاثة ثلاثة اعتدوا علي بعد ما كنت متصاوبة. في شيء أدافع عنه إلا هاي الإيد. الصدر كان حدي، يعني ترويقة بعدها بالأرض. مسكت السكتين وبمحمش، يا بروحي يا بروحك، وها هيك مت أنا. ثلاثة اعتدوا علي. مع شويت لتاني يوم الأحد، يا الأحد يا السبت يا الأحد، مش ذاكرة يمكن بالتحديد. شي الساعة 4 المساء اجى عسكري عم بتفتش على أهله. كنت فاد أنطق أنا، معاش حكيت من هالمناظر اللي شفتها. صرت أحكي بالإشارة. لا خبطت شي على الباب ليسمع إني أنا جوا، في وحدة مية بعدها طيبة. طلعت جارتنا شافتني، عيطت له اجوا لهون لجوا. شلح من جاكيته وحطه على جسمي. جاب حرام من العنا من البيت، لأنه كانوا بالأرض كلها. حطني على حرام، ظهروني لبرا على الشارع. على الشارع كان في أسعافات فيه. وصلني على الكولا هو، ومن الكولا أخذوني على المستشفى.
Yeah, this is another witness from Southern Shatila. Okay, so this, if you want, when you have this excess, your experience is excessive to a point where you're just. So all of these, I hope now you got the idea behind the Dürer etching, where the guy is eating the book. The guy is eating the book. It means that these experiences, you don't just witness them like when you look at the apocalypse or you look at war and you make images about it, because they really inhabit you, and you carry them with you all the time. They form your speech, the way you see, the way you live, and everything else. And you have this kind of persistence. There is kind of persistence of these silences, of you sitting there, which leads Walid to say that actually when you are one of these witnesses who knows too much, it seems that you are persistently remaining in space as an image. You know, like Simon, you feel that he's there in the village and he's like an image that is becoming, you can't erase that image from that scenery, and he's slowly appearing and persisting in his, or in the place of his, of the violent experience. So I hope you understand that this is not like distancing. Distancing is when you make images about the war. And here Walid says that they made an exhibition called The Road to Peace in the Beirut Art Center in 2009. And in The Road to Peace, you see images of the war which are seen at a distance. So the exhibition was Road to Peace paintings in times of war. And you have stuff like that. These paintings were done during the war, at least. And what Walid says is that this kind of composition, representation of the violence of war it remains too distant from the actual heaviness and carrying of what happened. And for him, the whole issue is how to really be able to give a shape or express this heaviness that inhabits the excessive witnesses. Now, Of course, you have other forms of witnessing. You have, for example, the combatants who witnessed massacres, who were actually themselves doing the massacres, or being implicated in wars. And, for example, one of them is a woman, I think, from the family of Sniper, and she actually witnessed torture in Ashrafiyeh and massacres and stuff like that. And she went back to tell Jaja that these things are happening in Ashrafiyeh. And she was surprised that be it Jaja or the other, big names, they didn't react to that. And here, what is really going on? So you see, you think that you are a witness of violence, and you want to denounce that. You are part of it, and you would like to denounce it. You go to denounce it to X or Y, and you notice that for them it's as if nothing happened, or and you are really surprised, and you turn into this kind of tragic figure that is trying to convey a truth but is not received by those who are supposed to receive that truth. Now what is happening here is what Walid calls a public secret. Everyone knew back then that tortures were happening, but the political, military, and strategic structure didn't allow anything in relation to that. So this is why many of these testimonies didn't become proper witnessing, meaning they didn't trigger the legal, military, or whatever machines that is going to change the situation. And many of these combatants who witness these torture scenes, they usually end up turning towards God, or they leave the country. I don't know if you read these memoirs by combatants, most of them turns at the end and says the only witness for me can be God, and he's the only one who can hear me because no one is hearing me. And actually no one is hearing you because you are really facing the public secret. A public secret is that we all know what happened, it's not a secret, but bringing about the truth of what happened will not change anything. Not change anything. Actually, you can remain free and have your normal life, knowing that you are saying what you yourself did. It doesn't affect anything. As you know, as I already told you, the amnesty law simply granted forgiveness for all what happened during the war. And hence you can have this kind of form of witnessing, which is the impossible witness. If you want to watch a movie, you can watch Luqman Slim's Massacre. I don't know if you watched that. He made a movie with those who committed the massacres in Sabra and Shatila. And here you see them really witnessing and speaking about how they killed, how they raped, etc. And massacre. Where you see them freely talk about that. Now, of course, their speech sometimes is also disrupted, weighted, whatever, but it remains that what they spoke about, now you have the two types. You have the repenting kind of combatant, the guy who have a crisis of consciousness and tries to stop that in the afterward or during the event. And you have those who really are not affected by what they did, and they really just tell you what they did as if, they were doing anything else. It's a documentary, called Massacre, where you see the guys just speaking about it as if nothing happened, and some of them being affected by that. But the idea here is the idea of this another form of witness, which is the impossible witness. The impossible witness is really someone who thinks that his job is to carry or disclose a truth, but he sees that actually there's nothing to disclose because we already know that truth. So the problem becomes, what do you do with this excessive knowledge? You see, to disclose the truth is a blocked way because we already know it. So for Walid, the only two other ways are either the impregnated or the witness who knows too much. The impregnated, your speech becomes volatile and you start speaking a surrealist language or a humoristic language. And the witness who knows too much, you have this heaviness that interrupts speech. Now, next to these, I'll just enumerate them. You have the historical, post-historical, ahistorical witnesses. So you have all kinds of types. So if you take the witness, which is the most common in Lebanon, is what we call the ahistorical witness. Now, what is the ahistorical witness? Ahistorical witness is what I guess most of us are. It's simply that after bombardments and the like, you simply wake up and continue your life as if nothing happened. I don't know if you lived that situation. There's an assassination, car bombs, or even bombardments. You are really afraid sitting in the, in the corridor and the bathroom, protecting yourself the way you can for the whole night. And the next day you just wake up and you go and you play basketball. Okay? So this is, if you want, what he calls the ahistorical witness. Ahistorical witness is this kind of neutrality, indifference, that you're able to develop in relation to the situation. And the state of indifference, you are simply, as you say, insipid when it comes to the situations of violence. I hope this one is clear. Right. Now, what you call the post-historical is like in the movie by Eid Shusar. I don't know if you've watched that movie. No. So this guy used to live, he was taken by his close family to Canada, France, Canada, and then he knew that actually his family was massacred in the village by their neighbors. So when he grew up, he couldn't get over that, so he came back to make a documentary on who killed his family. This is a form of post-historical witness, meaning for him, this kind of information needs to be disclosed, and the truth needs to be brought to the public. But of course, when he decided to project that movie in Lebanon, it was banned. Now, why it was banned? Because of the public secret and of the amnesty law, meaning we don't want these stories now to surface in the name of peace, and we don't want to have any more frictions, etc. So the censorship bans the movie. And of course, in this situation, Eid was very frustrated, and he felt that it's unfair not to disclose this truth. So he turned into this kind of figure of the impossible witness again. Now, the first one is the historical witness. Now, the historical witness is really someone who witnessed a situation, and with this situation, or as you can say, with this knowledge, he aims at turning the situation into a victory. On that, you have the character of Terminator, you have the movie. So Terminator is a documentary made by Jarjura, and she made a documentary during, just after the Hariri's assassination. The movie is here, you can watch it, I hope you'll watch it. So it's a documentary about this guy called Terminator, which used to be an army soldier during the Aoun War of Liberation. So you know Harb al-Tahrir by Aoun. So for him, for Terminator, Aoun is a hero, and back then Aoun was, was in France. He was exiled in France, and you see Terminator, like during these revolts of the 14th of March around Hariri, for him it was the moment of taking revenge against the Syrians, because part of the discourse back then was to kick out the Syrians from Lebanon. And for him, for Terminator, this was the continuation of the Aounist project. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that when you are this kind of witness, meaning you witnessed Aoun during the heydays of the War of Liberation, and now you are living in a situation where apparently the enemies of Aoun are going to be kicked out, you become what Walid calls a posthumous witness, meaning it's too late for you now to play the heroes because the situation has changed. And in this movie, you see this guy Terminator, and he's a bit ridiculous. The idea is that he's a bit like out of frame. because he's really thinking that he's still doing the fight that happened, I don't know, something like 10 years ago, and continuing this fight today. Okay? So I hope these are more or less clear. Now, the question is, what do you do in this situation? Now, what do you do in this situation where you have, where it is a situation where you really have all kinds of testimonies? You have testimonies from those who committed the massacres, testimonies of those who suffered the massacres. You have testimonies that can be spoken, etc., etc. And what do you do with that? What do you do with that? Or what would be a way to deal with these divergent forms? With these divergent forms, you have two main attitudes. Again, it's the same kind of situation. The two attitudes are what you call the psychoanalytical take on trauma that you know about. All of these people are traumatized and need to be cured. And you go via a psychoanalytical cure in order to get over your trauma and move on. In that form, or if this is your strategy to deal with these witnessing, the problem is that you are going to homogenize all the witnessings under the same kind of medical psychoanalytical discourse to make these people move on with their lives. So this is the first option. The second option is what you call the humanitarian discourse. Now, the humanitarian discourse considers that pain and suffering is the same for everyone. Pain and suffering is the same for everyone. And hence, all of those who went through traumatic episodes need to be looked upon as the same, in quote, victim, in order again to be healed and to be considered by the community. Now, you have issues here, which is that you have two issues. Which is the first is that if you take the psychoanalytical discourse, it is not true that you can homogenize all of these situations under the same graph, which is trauma, pathology, symptom, resolution. When it comes to the humanitarian reductionism, like we all suffered, and as sufferers we are all the same, it's also not true, because if you look at the different testimonies, you see that they are very different in their texture and in the way the suffering is received and lived. So the suffering of an ex-combatant being tortured by a militia that caught him is not the same as the suffering of a woman being raped in Sabra al-Shatia, which is not the same as the suffering of someone who lost his family when he was a kid, etc., etc. You have all these kinds of different forms of suffering. So what do you do in that case? What you do is that you unfold the different discourses in one line. At least this is what Walid is saying. You make a kind of chorus of all these witnesses speaking one after the other or together, and you make this kind of, and you hear this divergent form of discourse. Is this clear, more or less? Okay, so I'll show you one or two last images just for you to get that. So this is from the 2006. Here you feel the line. Huh? This is a form of excessive witnessing. Okay, it can look ridiculous or not. This is not the issue. It is that you have this kind of two temporalities in the same place. You have this kind of two things happening in the same place. This is the destruction itself, one of the images of the 2006 bombardments. We have really like a clean erasure of pieces of Beirut. This is another way of witnessing from being an excessive witness. And this is the witnessing of massacre.
اصطفوا حول الدويرة. على التل تبع الدويرة هيك التفوا حواليها أجمعين، ما في بقى تقول شي 6-7 حواليهم مطوقين بالمقتلين، شي 6-7 بقوصوا بقول له لهيدا بس قوصنا هيدا، بقول له لهيدا لمه كبوا بالجورة، بلموا بكبوا بالجورة كمان هيدا كمان، يعني بالدور بالتسلل هيك يصير، هيك صارت المجزرة. ثلاثة ب14، الأربعة ب15، الخميس ب16. ننزل تاني يوم نهار الخميس على السكن كلنا سوا، بخبرنا مارون بقلنا نحن رايحين عصر رشتينا، وشعارنا كبير صغير مقمط بالصغير، ما في أمر حميد.
The thing is that, at least what I understand from Walid, is that if you put all of these witnessings together, be it Terminator, who is completely delirious about the return of On, you put it with completely neutral people, you know, getting out of their bathroom after a night of bombardment and then resuming their life normally. If you put that with the witnesses that we have seen, Sabra and Shatila, be it the impregnated or the one who knows too much, with excessive witnesses, you end up in a scenery where it really sounds like a chorus. A chorus, it's like a choral, where you have all these different languages being spoken, and the difficulty is to be able to cross all of these discourses, which are very contrasted, violent sometimes, and antagonistic, in a way where you can hear this polyphony. And for Walid, this is, or with that, you can really start building a real communal discourse. I think the problem with the psychoanalytical and the humanitarian version is that they kill the specificity of these discourses and sufferances. It's either we all suffered and let's move on, or we are all sick and let's go to a treatment and get ourselves cured. And in that kind of attitude, you don't have anymore this patchwork. I think what Walid is trying to say is that if you're not aware and really close to this patchwork, what will happen is that you will have this kind of facsimile of a problem resolution, but the problem will remain. So what he's advocating to in what he calls the labor of the ruin is that each one brings on the table his witnessing, and with these kind of things, you try now to build a collective discourse with these pieces. Now, when you do that, you can see that the one witnessing is not anymore alone with his witnessing, and he's contributing in the patchwork with a piece. And all the others who contribute in this patchwork with a piece, they feel that now they're not alone. They feel that now they're not alone and alone carrying the weight of their witnessing. And in this kind of communal conversation, something could appear, something, or at least Walid hopes that something very concrete could start to emerge by being aware of these different stories and bringing them together. Actually, I think that in his text, this is what he does. In his text, you really see like the many voices speaking about the violent experiences of the war. And when you read through it, it reads. It's not that you're able to read in one time, in one breath, as Walid says, the whole different contrasted, very, very contrasted experiences, really, between a guy doing the massacre to a guy who suffered from it. But you really feel that you lose, in a way you lose, without losing the notion of justice, this kind of harsh distinction between butcher and victim. I think this is what he's getting at, because most of the testimonies are about we are victims or we are butchers. But actually, if you are able to bring these together into one composition or one chorus, this distinction, even though it is very important, it takes another shape. It becomes a material for another type of apprehending or speaking these stories. Okay? So I hope this is clear for today. So please read the readings. Are you reading? Yeah? Okay. So you have 2 extra readings for that. And you have the movies. Watch the movies. This way you know what I'm talking about.